everybody, I'm Amy,
And I'm Paul.
and welcome to the Comics Hall.
Thank you.
we got,
Oh, were you welcoming me? No, right? I'm on the show.
you are on the show, but I mean, welcome back. Thanks for joining us. Hey guys, it is Princess Week here at Sideshow, not just because Sideshow made a royal decree, but because it's actually technically National Princess Week. So we thought we'd get in on the fun with the return of a special event show. We are joined today by our mod in shining armor. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey everybody, I'm Rob. I'll be your moderator for this evening's proceedings. I'll be in the chats, passing along questions and answering questions.
Excellent. Thank you
As
so
as long
much.
as they're all in a scroll form.
Yeah, that's
They
the only
only.
way. Only way we'll take any questions, petitions, anything from the General Assembly today.
Either scroll or scroll, it doesn't matter, but one of them.
Did you say scroll?
I did.
All right, it is Wednesday, April 28th. It's a new comic book Wednesday. We will briefly touch on the new books we picked up this week, but in honor of Princess Week, we did really want to celebrate some of our favorite comic book princesses with all of you. If you're in the Let Your Geek Sideshow Facebook group, you know that we did ask some questions pertaining to your favorite comic book royals, and we will get to that today. But we got a lot of great stuff going on, so let's just jump in with some news. It's not comic book news, but it's our Princess Week royal decrees. Let's see what's going on at Sideshow.
Yes, we are very busy. We're in the thick of Princess Week here. So everyone, right up top, head over to side.show/Princess Week 21. That's going to be your guide to everything that is happening this week. Again, we're halfway through, but we've got 2 awesome days left, and we've also got one show after this left, which is that Sideshow show with me in Autumn, which is super scripted, and we just read from the scroll that is scroll that now I can't stop. Now that's gonna be stuck in my head forever. So that's fun. And tomorrow we've got an episode of Win, Lose, or Die, written by Jasmine Edwards. That's going to be so much fun. And then she's going to be talking about her process of writing that story. And this is, I think, her third Win, Lose, or Die that she's done. And she'll be on that Sideshow show after, sort of explaining her process and how she went through all that. So that's always really fun. We've got Trivial Cahoots on Friday
Oh
at
boy.
noon, which is a wonderful dumpster fire of a trivia show it is absolutely ruthless. And if you can make it till the end, it's worth it. You can win $50 in Sideshow rewards points. But it is not easy to survive. I think it might be easier to survive Win, Lose, or Die, is all I'm saying. And then, of course, we have our brand new show, Run, by our moderator in shining armor, Mr. Rob Honeybear Kocher, which is new at Sideshow, where we talk about not only all things that are new. That's you, dude. Hello. um, it's not only all things new inside show, that particular week with events and such, but even on weeks where we don't have events, it's what new products dropped, pop culture headlines, all manners of things. I know Amy's already been on it. Me and you will be on the show tomorrow.
Yes, we'll be on the show tomorrow. Today they talked comic book news without us. Can you believe that?
Someone
So
planned that.
rude.
Someone that is on this show and someone that is named Rob.
We've got a spy in the castle. No, it's a great way to.
You again.
I can take no credit for that.
But you will take all of the blame. No, just kidding. It's a fantastic
True.
show. Again, that's that actually goes out to multiple platforms. The that sideshow show we were mentioning is exclusive to the Let Your Geek Sideshow Facebook group. There's lots of fun places to be, and again, we've still got 2 whole days of Princess Weekend.
Yes.
Technically, today's festivities are not over; they're only just beginning with our show. So again, you can go to side.show/PrincessWeek21 for all of that information. And one of the princesses this week is gonna show up again next week, I think, because we also have a Star Wars fan week coming up next week. So you guys can stay tuned for that. But we've got princess proceedings going.
Are there
on
any
right
hints
now.
at all? Maybe on your left shoulder?
Maybe. And I bet this show might be informative for people who are trying their hand at Trivial Cahoots. I mean, I would
Yes.
recommend you take a few notes,
Hmm.
perhaps.
Yeah, it
You
will
never
play
know.
in. I don't want to brag, but I'm not very good at trivia, but I am good at coming up with trivia questions and all of the logistics of it. So again, this episode of the Comics Hall may be very informative, as Amy had said, and
It may
that's
not
really.
be.
It also may not be. I have no idea yet because Show just started. I guess we'll see. But that's really all of our news. We just wanted to kind of go over, the event that we have today, which
Yeah.
or this week. I'm sorry, which is Princess Week. And then again, if you are interested, which I assume you might be, head over to side.show/fan week 21 to register right now for our week-long Star Wars celebration. That is, of course, think of it like the birthday event where there are numerous perks to pre-registering. So side.show/fan week 21, and you can register right now.
All right. So, in honor of Princess Week, we had the return of a fan favorite, I think, segment. An ego bruiser, of course. What would be a Princess Week without somebody fighting for the fair hand of the maiden? So we brought back Panel of the Week this week, and Paul and I each pitted two of our favorite comic book princesses against one another
Sure
in
did.
a panel showdown for you guys, and they both ended up being DC Comics princesses. I mean,
Which never
uh,
happens.
no disrespect to the ladies over at Marvel, but I think DC Comics has some of the most preeminent comic book princesses around. So,
I thought you were saying that like Kanye West. Sorry to mean to interrupt you, but DC Comics has the best princesses around.
I mean, it's cool that we both ended up with that. So, first up is I'll show you guys my panel that I picked. This is Starfire from Secret
Such a cool
Origins
panel.
13. I know, and I love the way that I mean, I know in modern comics the hair is more explicitly a flame, but I
Mhm.
love the way that her hair was done in kind of the classic Teen Titans. So this is from Secret Origins number 13 by DC Comics, written by Dan Mishkin with art by Eric Larson and Mike DiCarlo, colors by Carl Gafford, and letters by John Costanza. And this is actually a panel of Nightwing reflecting on why he likes Starfire, and it's because of the emotions she allows herself to express that fuel her powers. Because growing up under Batman's shadow, Batman is not an emotional dude.
No, he is not. He's got just one emotion: justice.
Justice.
Yeah, and if you are a fan, what's interesting, Amy, is I've actually had some interactions online with people who were unaware of Starfire, really outside of maybe Teen Titans and Teen Titans Go, and were sort of confused about the hair. And this is
Mhm.
where it comes from the Wolfman Perez, and the only time they've seen that is in our PF that we have.
Oh,
And they're like, I
okay.
don't understand why Sideshow's doing it this way. And it's like we were actually paying homage to Wolfman and Perez way back when, and this is a great example of where we drew inspiration from, I'd say.
Yes, because I also think that those dear sweet animators over at Warner Brothers and Cartoon Network Studios needed to give themselves a little bit of a break when trying to
Yeah.
animate Starfire.
Yeah, that is an absolute. I just couldn't imagine how difficult that is. I'm not an animator, and nor will I ever be, but I assume it's not easy. All right, so moving on over to my panel that I chose. I went a little more modern with a pretty popular princess, I'd say. I'm also currently in Themyscira, where she rules. This is Wonder Woman number 17, of course, DC Comics, written by the incredible Gail Simone, with art and inks by the Dodsons. We've got Terry Dodson on pencils, Rachel on the inks, and then Ron Randell, or I think it's Randall actually, on colors here. And we see this is an army that Wonder Woman has amassed after beating a one Gorilla Grodd, a Flash villain. This is a wonderful story that is really sort of understated, but Gail Simone just really knows how to write Wonder Woman, I think, and this
Oh
was
yeah.
why I had chosen this story. This is a what I would call a modern definitive story in her lore and her, sort of conflict with is it Hepta? Yeah, Hepta. Um, and she, it's just a great I think panel that represents some of the strife and some of the lore that is built into her princess duties, which I will also get into a little bit more with another book that I have chosen to feature today. But I'm getting ahead of myself. But Wonder Woman number 17 by the Dodsons, can't really go wrong. It's a great
I
panel.
know that panel is stacked from top to bottom
Yes.
with creators and characters. Now we put it to you guys to vote. This was up on our Instagram. This was in the Let Your Geek Side Show Facebook group, and it was in the local Comics Society, which is our brand new, currently in a soft launch phase,
Yes.
comics hall group. It is just a place for comics. We're bringing the local Comics Society to you,
Hmm.
like your LCS, if you
Yeah.
follow the
You
lingo.
can actually go to side.show/your LCS. That's YOUR LCS. And you can join the group right now.
Yeah, there's some great people
Hmm.
in there talking about the books we picked up this week, posing questions, showing off variant covers, all that good stuff. But it is still in an early kind of launch, so if you want to get in on the ground floor, you can do that.
Yep,
Anyways, we did tally up all of the votes that came in, and it was a tight battle, I'd say.
it was.
Maybe,
Yeah,
maybe,
it
or
wasn't.
maybe somebody ran away with it.
They sure did. So the winner of the Princess Week panel of the week is my panel. I'm back, baby.
Woo!
All right.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I think something that we've noticed on this show when we did panel of the week, which we're going to be doing it way more infrequently, unfortunately. We're just the show is just moving so fast that we got to drop some stuff, but we'll do panel of the week when we can. But when we were doing it more consistently, one of the things we learned is if you throw in the Trinity, any of them, it's almost a guaranteed victory. So I always tried to avoid Batman, Wonder Woman, or Superman because it's a little unfair.
I mean, there's ways to game the system, but we are keeping it for event shows. So if you guys want to get in on the vote, again, join
Yes,
those Facebook groups. Check out our Instagram at the Comics Hall. We will be doing a Star Wars themed one for our show next week.
we
Hey,
definitely will be.
Paul, as the winner, I think that somebody deserves a reward.
I think so. Well, everyone, I'm gonna get going. Rob, you're on. Oh, was that not me? Am I not? Well,
The
everyone.
reward is not clocking out early. Get back here.
Oh, yeah, I've got one more show after this, and then I'll just collapse from being tired. So, everyone, thank you guys all so much for whether this is your first show or your 20th, 25th show. Thank you all so very much. It's reward code time. Head over
Nailed
to
it.
side.show/code and enter the reward code Serenity. So side.show/code and enter Serenity. Again, right up top because everyone is going to ask before you start telling Rob the website's slow or it's not working. It's because everyone is trying to do the exact same thing at the exact same time. So a little bit of patience, a little bit of fairy dust, and go to side.show/code and enter Serenity. And that's for the first 2,000 comic book haulers that get there first. So go put that code in and come right back because we got a whole show left.
Yeah, and it is a limited use, as Paul mentioned.
Hmm.
So if
2,000
you
people.
if you are watching the later video feedback, or maybe you're
Well,
listening to our
podcast.
podcast
Yeah.
feed, which goes live on Thursdays after the show, this is likely expired. I mean, you can go ahead and try, but that should be encouragement to watch our show live at 4 p.m. Pacific time on Wednesdays every new comic book day. But if you
Even
are
next
listening,
week.
yeah,
Just saying.
especially maybe next week.
Hmm.
But if you are watching the podcast feedback, you can see all these images that we featured, including the panels we voted on and the covers from our featured books this week by going to sideshow.com/geek and checking the blog for the weekly Comics Hall update.
Hmm.
Speaking of
Hmm.
weekly updates, we wanted to give you guys a quick just touch base on some of the books we picked up this week because you can always hit us up in the local Comic Society group if you want to talk about some of the releases that we got this week while we are featuring other books as our Princess Week show. So, Paul, you want to kick off our rapid fire round? That's where we just name some titles really fast.
I sure do. And again, if you are reading any of the titles that me and Amy say, let us know. Join the local comic society. Post some covers. We love seeing variants. Me and Amy usually do so when we can. So what I am reading over at Marvel, I'm reading Fantastic Four number 31, the Hellfire Gala Guide number 1. I don't know if I'm actually going to read the Hellfire storyline, but I really want that guide. I really, really do. So over at DC, I'm picking up Robin number 1, and then I'm also reading Batman Black and White number 5, which is an anthology series that I'm reading. And for one reason, it is an all-star cast on that book. Just to name a few: Jorge Jimenez, Mariko Tamaki, Jamal Campbell, Kieran Gillen, and Jamie McKelvey have their own Batman story. And they're all not really centered around Batman. So if you've got a little Batman fatigue, which I understand, these are great stories because Batman is in the story, but he's not the core point of the story, which is always welcomed, I think. And then over, as far as indie books go, crossover, Department of Truth, crossover number 6, Department of Truth number 8, I Breathed a Body number 4, and Shadow Doctor. And I think I'm also picking up Snatched number 1 by Scout Comics. So yeah, that's all I've got. Actually, kind of a short week for me. I normally have like way too many books. Someone has a lot of books this week.
The last 2 or 3 weeks of my pull list have made me go, I should really have a sit down with myself and just take a look at my choices. However, half of that was due to the fact that I got every single one of the variant covers for the Mighty Valkyries from Marvel. But this week I had some really great books, and most of them are independent titles. So if you are looking for some independent comics to get into, come and talk to me, please. From Marvel, I picked up Beta Ray Bill #2 and Black Widow #6. And then from Scout Comics, I got Midnight Western Theater #1. I got Stake #2. From Vault, I got Witchblood #2. You guys know how much I love Witchblood, so I cannot wait to
So
get
good.
into its second issue. Then from Boom Studios, I've got Abbott 1973 #4, Once and Future #18, and then at Image, I've got Bitterroot #12, Crossover #6. From Source Point Press, I've got The Eighth Immortal #4, and then I've got from Heavy Metal, The Modern Frankenstein #1. Boom. Hope that was rapid
Nice.
enough for you guys.
That was way more rapid than mine, but it tracks. It makes a lot of sense.
Good stuff all around.
All right. So before we move on to our core segment, Rob, do we have any comments, questions? Compliments are always welcome.
We do have a little comment slash question from Tenchi Misaki over in our Facebook group. Amy, does Paul owe us an apology for aiming and recommending Stray Dogs? Issue 3, not cool. Not cool, man.
Okay. Well, first of all, Amy was the one that had done that book. So
But please
please,
go on.
Amy, explain yourself.
I don't apologize
Such a good
because
book.
it's such a good book. I mean, also if nothing else, those freaking movie cover variant covers are so
Are
cool. The movie poster
beautiful.
variants. I apologize. I knew going into it that that was going to be a like, oh look, it's so cute. Oh my god, this is really upsetting style story. Didn't realize how much so, but I'm glad that you are reading it. And yes, Paul, you owe them an apology. Paul wasn't even on the show that week. Paul
I
wasn't even on
wasn't.
the show
No.
that week. That was
Mm-mm.
all me.
They just
Jazz had nothing to do with
assume
it either.
that anything bad has to come. They're like, "Oh, Amy, don't worry about it. Then it's fine." Seriously,
Because I'm the princess and
you are the princess,
nothing goes wrong.
and
But I'm
I'm
glad that you're still
an
reading it
ogre.
and
I think
supporting the title.
I'll be a bard. I don't care.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
well, thank you, Tenchi. Always good to hear from you. Tenchi, a longtime viewer, and also someone in the local comic society. So thank you guys again. If you would like to ask us more questions, if there's anything we can't get to today, we'll try to get to everything today. If you guys have any questions about any comics, anything that has to do with comics or how comics are affecting, other mediums, let us know. We'll try to get to them where we can. If not, head over to side.show/URLCS.
All
Amy,
right.
we have a whole other segment.
We do. I mean, this has all been the fun and fluff stuff. We
Hmm.
have an entire segment for you guys. Again, just to celebrate some of our favorite comic book princesses. We're calling this our princess pull list. There's no
Yes.
fancy image for it, but that's what we're deciding to call it today. We've broken down three main categories of princesses we wanted to feature today. We're gonna hit you up with some fairy tale princess recommendations. Of
Nice,
course, the
nice.
kind of standard or non-standard once upon a times. We've got some space princesses because everybody loves princesses in outer space. And then we got some action princesses, the princesses who take it upon themselves to save themselves
Hmm.
and others in need. So we've got a lot of great books. We tried to keep our recommendations across the board. I am especially recommending a few all ages books that if you've got a young daughter or any young reader, they would especially love them. But I also recommend them to you, the viewers, because I mean, even if it's an all ages or a book that seems more geared towards a young audience, I think everybody can find some enjoyment in these stories. Because I know I do. So, Paul, you want to kick us off with our first fairy tale princess story?
I sure do. Now this is a what I would call a heavy hitter of a story. It's not something that's going to be a shock to everyone, but I wanted to remind you that Fables exists, and the reason that I chose this for Princess Week because it shows some of our favorite princesses from maybe the Disney princess universe, and it really sort of brings them into a modern world, a more this is a more mature representation of them. Maybe your first experience with Fables was through A Wolf Among Us, the Telltale game,
Oh,
um, and
so
which is
good.
such an incredible game, and that all stemmed from this book. Fables is incredible. Now, some of some quick notes on it. Of course, Bill Willingham is the writer, an incredible writer. Lon Medina is the artist, and colors by Sherilyn Van Valkenburg. Awesome name. One of the best names of a colorist. Um, Now, again, this is by Vertigo. Rip, Vertigo.
Oh my
Pour one
gosh.
out. This was a story basically about. Again, I'm not going to spoil too much because it is still a pretty like this story really does hold up. I read a little bit last night and today, so I think that I don't really want to spoil too much of it. It is available on Comixology right now. If you are a Comixology Unlimited member, you can borrow this book and I think the first four trades. I only saw the first four. It may be some more, but that's almost 31, 32 issues that you can just read for
Yeah.
free if you've got a subscription. It is a murder mystery story that interweaves fantasy with real world horror, and it is a detective story that is led um by Big B Wolf, who is big bad wolf. And it's got the first couple of books has Snow White in it, Jack from Jack and the Beanstalk. It's got a really fun version of Belle and Beast that I
Oh,
love. Um, it is a mix of what was that show called? Is it Once Upon a Time?
yes, Once Upon a Time.
It is a mix of like that show, which is said to have been greatly influenced by Fables. I don't know how much of that is true, but I mean, it's sort of hard to deny. But some of the later seasons of Once Upon a Time get a little bit more lighthearted. But Fables is not a lighthearted book. I would not say that this is like, hey, if you've got a young reader and he or she is really interested in princesses, I would not say give them this book. It does have some adult themes. I would say PG-13 maybe. It's nothing too grotesque, but they are adult versions of these characters.
Well, a lot of the classic fairy tales, a lot of people tend to forget because a lot of them were Disneyfied. The
Hmm.
Brothers Grimm
Right.
lived up to their name. I mean, a lot of the classic fairy tales do have some very hard edges to them. So I think, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, no one did it like Vertigo.
Hmm.
Seriously, just
Yeah, they
love
took
this
shots and
series.
they went there with characters that people thought, I mean, that they really couldn't or shouldn't. And Bill Willingham did an incredible job of just researching the original versions of some of these stories and bringing that to page. So if you were familiar with any of these characters, a lot of the I think was the original like 8 or 9 Disney princesses make their way into this book, but it's just a really, really good time. Originally published in 2002, multiple spin-offs of this book have amassed. So I mean, there is no shortage of reading. I mean, this book was around for almost 10 years in some iteration. It's like a fairy tale version of like Sandman, where it's just like you
Yeah.
turn a corner and there's so much more content. If you want a character fleshed out, Bill Willingham and that team at Vertigo did it. So if you want to fall in love with the Fables universe, please do. There is so much reading. You could just amass yourself in this for I don't know how long and just be obsessed with it. So yeah, that's why I particularly chose this book. There are a lot of quote unquote like Disney princesses that you guys would know, but completely transformed if that's more your speed. So Fables by Vertigo, 100% read if you've never heard of it or if you've never read it, and if you have, read it again because I did. Totally holds up. So
Good, good stuff. Okay, my pick for our fairy tale princesses, I am going Disney. I'm going younger readers, but also able to be enjoyed by all ages. This is the Disney Princess comic series by Amy Meberson, and it is called Disney Princess. It is published by Disney Comics. You may be familiar with the name Amy Meberson from her infinitely popular fan art, Pocket Princesses, which were kind of 1 or 2 panel comic book escapades. And now Disney has capitalized on her amazing ability to draw very cute, stylized versions of the princesses
wow.
and just really create some fun, quick, short story scenarios. This is an ongoing series. However, there's no one overarching storyline. All of the stories in here featuring the princesses are short humors, like humor bits, and some of them are a full page, some of them are 3 panels. Your mileage will vary with these, but all of your favorite classic Disney princesses are here.
Hmm.
There are a lot of collected editions available with titles like Friends, Family, Fantastic, Follow Your Heart, Gleam, Glow, and Laugh, and Make Way for Fun. But you can also find them under Disney Princess number 1 through, I believe, 17. Uh, at your local comic book store, it will be probably the Disney Princess title. They are so cute, and of course, there is Ariel, Belle, Cinderella, Tiana, Pocahontas, Mulan, Merida, Moana, just all of the princesses in that kind of core Disney lineup, which I know
Hmm.
that Paul, you and Autumn spent one of the That Sideshow show wrap ups debating the official criteria for a Disney princess, and it is pretty
Yes.
rigorous.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I mean, you've got to either marry into royalty, be royalty, or perform a heroic act. You've got to be in an animated movie. You got to spin around 6 times. There's all sorts of things, but there are more and more Disney princesses being added in every day.
yes. Um, yeah, I mean it's so great. But this is the classic core lineup. And I believe if anyone is thinking like, oh, I'm not really sure if I know this, I guarantee you've seen at least one Pocket Princesses. A lot of the stories, of course, involve humor with animal sidekicks, always a constant source of joy. Dealing with princess hair, and I will say, surprise, surprise, it is not just Rapunzel's problem. A lot of princesses have that princess hair they got to take care of. There's a lot of jokes from their own movies as well. We do have an example of one of the shorts. I think if we can pull up the Aladdin one, if we have that asset.
Oh, right, right, right.
Maybe, maybe not. Otherwise, we can post it up in the Let Your Geek Sideshow Facebook
Oh
group
yeah, we'll
later.
we'll regardless, we'll get it out there, but
Okay. Yeah, maybe we don't have it right now, but there is one, for example, of Jasmine and Aladdin. And Aladdin is saying, "I can show you the world," and then it starts raining on them, and she says, "Well, maybe you could show me the world like another time when the weather's better." It's cute little humor comics like that.
oh,
Yeah,
there we
there
go.
we go. There we go. Uh, there's a lot of captions going on here. Of course, Aladdin says, "This never gets old, does it?" And Jasmine says, "Aladdin, we should get back. I heard it's going to." And he says, "Soaring through the sky, the breeze whipping through our hair, just you and me seeing the." And he gets a raindrop on his head, and then we get the crackoom of thunder. How about you show me the world another time? And the stories, yeah, the stories all range from one quick panel to longer pages. But this is really just a delight. If you're looking for something that's a quick read, uh, even laugh out loud kind of stuff, I think this is the Disney Princess series is just really not a bad place to start for any young reader or
Yeah.
anyone. I mean, that humor is not exclusive to children. I think we all
No, it
find
is
something
not.
something delightful in Disney princesses, which is why we keep returning to the stories over and over again.
Funny is funny.
Funny is funny. That is a fact.
Yeah, so I think that covers our fairy tale princesses. We're
Yeah.
moving on to our space princesses.
Space princesses who are princesses in and from space.
I like your Orson Welles voice.
Thank you.
All right, so I think I am up to bat first with a princess that you are all very familiar with. She is from Tamaran. Her name is pronounced like coriander. It's Starfire.
I love the when people realize her name is Coriander and
Yeah.
her sister is Commander.
Uh-huh.
Just love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, they for us and them had so much fun with that. So this is Starfire. This is the book by Jimmy Palmiotti, Amanda Connor, and Emanuela Lupacino on art and colors as well. During this book, this was Starfire's run through. This was post New 52. This came out in 2015, and this was a really interesting. Again, if you aren't familiar with Starfire, originally created by Marv Wolfman and George Perez, and was introduced in the new Teen Titans, and she is from the planet of Tamaran, which was enslaved by the Citadel, and she was forced to be a slave to the Citadel, even by her sister. There's so much lore there. Maybe you're familiar with like the character of like is it Black Star? Oh wow, my brain just
Blackfire.
Blackfire. Thank you. Yeah, and there's just so much lore here. But the reason I love this book and I chose this particular version for Starfire is it is the most modernized version of what we get in what I think a lot of our I'm going to speak for the crowd here. Maybe some of our favorite versions of Starfire are, which is Teen Titans and Teen Titans Go. Amanda Connor and Jimmy Palmiotti are huge fans of those two particular properties and of that version of Starfire. And so this is, again, a bit more mature version of that character, but not by much. She still has that like that fierceness and that innocence of being at an entirely new planet. That is wonderful. I remember I read this, and there are some parts that some of the text bubbles don't make sense, and I didn't understand. I'm like, why is this set up this way? But it's because you are reading the text as Starfire understands it, and she doesn't understand some colloquialisms and some like sayings and metaphors. And so someone will say like, it's raining cats and dogs, and then there's a text bubble off to the side, and it's just like her thinking like, why would it rain dogs and cats? And then so she gets anxiety because she thinks she has to save dogs and cats. It's just so funny, and one of the greatest things of this book is sort of a return to form for Starfire. She'd been, relatively absent at this point from, major comics and definitely hadn't had her own book. But I mean, if anyone could do it, would be Amanda Connor and Jimmy Palmiotti. And I mean, Lou Pacino is an absolute legend now.
Amazing, amazing stuff.
Incredible artist. Yeah, she's wonderful. And of course, and if Amanda Connor and Jimmy Palmiotti sound familiar, Harley Quinn. They sort of, I don't want to say maybe revolutionized Harley Quinn, but they definitely put a huge stamp on Harley Quinn comic books and had some pretty character defining runs. So this was for a little bit at the same time as some of their Harley Quinn stuff, but it definitely
Especially around
predated it.
Harley's Little Black Book, I think was
Uh,
coming out around the same time.
yeah, so they had just started to get a foothold in the Harley Quinn lore and universe, but they had really done a great version of Starfire here. That sort of I think personally as a fan of Corey, which is her her name here. It's not just Starfire. As someone who's a big fan of Teen Titans Go and Teen Titans, I loved this particular version of her. It's wonderful, and Amanda Connor just crushes it. She's an incredible artist as well. Um, yeah, again, if you are a fan of like the original some of the original Marv Wolfman like lore and that him and Perez had done, but also Teen Titans and Teen Titans Go, this is a great version of that particular version of Starfire. I love it. She's so funny and it's like so dorky, and you're like, it's so frustrating sometimes. Like listening to her, just like if you would just like get out of your own head and just fight, but it's part of the fun of her not understanding some of the sayings and our our comings and goings on Earth. So, yeah, Starfire number 1. Again, this is not. This is in an awkward period for DC. This was right after New 52 and right before like, oh geez, like
Rebirth.
Rebirth and such.
Yeah,
Yeah, this was
it
about,
was just on the
yeah,
cusp of
Rebirth was
Rebirth.
2016, I think.
Hmm.
But yeah, this was a great story. It's only 12 issues. When Connor and Palmiotti, they set out, they said, we're doing 12 issues and that's all we're doing. And that's all they did. And they told a wonderful story.
And
So,
I wholeheartedly secondarily endorse this as someone who I think the original Teen Titans cartoon is the reason that I'm as big of a fan of
mhm.
comic books and superhero books as I am today. This book is fantastic. They actually made a DC Direct or DC Collectibles statue of this exact
Oh,
cover as well.
did not know that.
Love, love, love that. That's a nice one if anyone recognizes that or has that in their collection. And they also
Yeah, let
did
us know.
some cute postcards because she's in the Florida Keys in this series, and so they did some nice postcards
That's right.
advertising that. And there is a Terra who shows up for fans of the original Teen
Yeah.
Titans, but it's not the Terra
No,
that we
no,
saw in
different.
the cartoon. It's not
Not
Terra
Judas
Markov.
Contract era. No.
No, it's Atlee. It's
Yeah.
Atlee. But yeah, wholeheartedly endorse that series as a fellow Starfire fan.
Oh yeah. So again, Starfire, you can find this pretty much anywhere. It is if you have DC Universe Infinite, congratulations. It's an awesome app. I use it literally all the time. But this story, all 12 issues are available on DC Universe Infinite, or you can buy it wherever you buy your comic books as well.
All right. Up next, we've got another space princess whose world is destroyed, but that's actually the kind of catalyst for the story that I'm about to recommend for you. Of course, it is Princess Leia, and more specifically, Marvel's Star Wars Princess Leia #1. Now, this was a huge, huge release when Marvel announced that they they had the Star Wars license returned to them, and they were launching strong. This was one of the 3 launch titles, including Jason Aaron's Star Wars and the Darth Vader Kieran Gillen title. This was Princess Leia, written by Mark Waid, with pencils and inks by Terry and Rachel Dodson, again, with colors by Jordi Belair and letters by Joe Caramagna. And for those of you who are watching the live show, you do see, actually, I picked a collage of Princess Leia covers. There's a J. Scott Campbell, there's the Dodson cover, there's a Scotty Young is the cute little one who keeps ending up on my shoulder if I sit correctly. Yeah, there we go.
There you go.
Lots of really cool variant covers. There was even a movie variant cover released. There was, I think each of these got at least like 12 variants. Those initial Star Wars releases, and this is still. I wish they had continued with more Princess Leia stories. I know she did
Yeah.
appear in Jason Aaron's not Adventures, Star Wars, excuse me. But this was a really nice title to kind of set the tone for that initial Star Wars launch. Specifically, this is Leia's adventures with the rebellion just after the celebration of destroying the Death Star in A New Hope. We begin on Yavin 4. And the series asks the question, what is a princess who has no homeworld? Where are her people? Are there any of her people left? Was there anyone off-world? And that's exactly what she sets out to find out. It was a 5-issue series, and again, one of the first books launched in 2015 for Marvel's Star Wars line. It reintroduces a lot of fan favorite characters to Marvel's Star Wars continuity, but it introduced some brand new characters as well, including Yvonne Verlaine, who is a fellow Alderaanian serving in the both as a lieutenant in the Alliance and a pilot in the Rebellion, who was personally mentored by Brea Organa, who is the Queen and Leia's adoptive mother. And so she had a great affinity for the House of Organa and accompanies Leia on her mission to round up the Alderaanian diaspora and see if there are any of her people remaining on any planets, as the Empire, to spite Princess Leia, begins to round up the fugitives from Alderaan who were not on the world when it was destroyed. And there's a lot of really fun planets we get to see, a lot of familiar ones from the original trilogy, plus some places that we didn't get to visit in the films. We see Celeste, which is the home of Nien Num's people, the Celestins. And then we also get a trip to Naboo, which is really nice, and I won't spoil what goes on there, but there's a trip to Naboo, which is a cool experience for Leia, whether or not she realizes it. And again, the creative team alone should tell you the quality of this book, but with the Dodsons doing the artwork, and Jordi Belair, another favorite of the Comics Hall, doing colors, with Mark Waid, who, I don't think, surprisingly, we've mentioned Mark Waid very much on this show, but I am a big fan of a lot of his writing, including his Daredevil. He did the all new, all different Avengers, and then this Princess Leia is just another feather in his cap. So I highly, highly recommend this one if you missed any of those initial Marvel Star Wars launches, because this one was only 5 issues, so it is absolutely worth going back for if you just really love Princess Leia adventures and kind of want to see a little interstitial between A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, I mean,
and I
such a
believe
good
this would
book.
be on Marvel Unlimited by now. I think
Yeah,
it's on
it
there.
definitely is.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, I mean, it's a great book. It was funny at the time. I think this came out. When was this, Amy? I know you had just said, is it
2015.
2015?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Which
picked
was
up
6
like
years ago.
I know, because this came out with Aaron's Star Wars, right, and
Yes.
Vader, which was that
It was the Kieran Gillen, and I want to say it was Salvador LaRocca on the art, but I might be
for
getting that
Vader,
wrong.
right?
Yeah, it was before the Charles Soule run
Oh, Charles Soule. That's who I
the
was thinking
Greg
of.
Pak runs on Darth
Greg
Vader.
Pak, yeah. Yeah, I remember picking up multiple variants of all of the, that trinity of books that came out at that time when they were relaunching, and it was such an exciting time. And those books, I mean, they really put a murderer's row of talent on all of those books. Specifically, this book, I think, had probably my favorite creative team. I mean, you can't. I mean, I'll read anything the Dodsons do, to be honest. Like anything they're on. And Jordi Belair has been killing it lately. And Mark Waid's no slouch at
Seriously.
all.
Good stuff. Yeah, Marvel brought their A game with those Star Wars releases, and it's
Yeah.
no surprise that these books went into multiple printings. Not even just it'll probably get a second print. I think Leia got 3 or 4 printings at least, and we know how that first Star Wars went with like 6, 7, 8 printings. Absolutely insane. So that's my pick for Space Princess.
So many great covers for that. I just keep looking behind you, and I'm like, oh, that's right. There was a billion great covers. Oh, that one directly behind you is particularly great. That's not Alex Ross, is it?
I'm not sure because I know that there was an Alex Ross cover released, but it was actually Darth Vader and Luke
Hmm.
on the Princess Leia book, which was very odd. I don't think that's Alex Ross, but I'd have to
Yeah, because
verify.
'cause to your right. That's got to be Campbell, right?
Oh yeah, the far. This
Yeah,
is this
and
is
then that's
Campbell,
the Dodsons.
Dodson's. We got
Maybe Alex
Scotty.
Ross.
Yeah. I'll have to go back and check, and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
will I will update the local comic society with my findings.
Yeah, sorry guys. That wasn't planned. We were kind of trying to do this for memory. I just
I wanted to pick a different background, and then I was like, screw it, we're going with all the Princess Leias.
yeah, it's an incredible background. Yeah, awesome pick. And I think that that wraps our space princesses. But we've got
Yes.
one category left, which I was really excited for this category.
Yes, so we're gonna go with action princesses.
Yes.
Which, I mean, it was kind of a hard, like a weird way to define that, but these are some of the most
Hmm.
battlefield ready princesses. So, Paul,
Yes.
I know you are so excited to talk about this book. Please, please do.
Oh my God. Wonder Woman, Dead Earth. Now, of course, this actually. So depending on where you get your like what you use for comic books and such, it'll say 2019, 2020. Technically, it came out in late 2020. I mean, I'm sorry, early 2020, late 2019. But this was in that weird um, sort of chasm of things were stirring that unfortunately comics may not be coming out, and so but this I picked this up in January of 2020. Now this is by Daniel Warren Johnson, and this is oh I'm sorry, this is by DC Black Label, which is their more adult oriented sort of label. They can kind of get away with some more stuff. You've got Joker and the I always want to call it the Haunting of Hill House. It is not that. It's the Nice House on the Lake. Some stuff that we've been talking about. But it's a great label that allows DC a little bit more freedom to steer into some more adult themes. So this is one of the first Wonder Woman stories under that label. Again, Wonder Woman Dead Earth by the incredible Daniel Warren Johnson. Now, Daniel Warren Johnson doing the writing and the penciling for this with in doing I believe he did his own inking as well on this particular story, and Michael Spicer did all the coloring. So Michael Spicer has worked on him with him quite a bit.
And that exact same team is the team that's currently tackling Beta Ray
Beta
Bill
Ray
over at
Bill. I was gonna
Marvel.
say, yeah, I know Amy's reading Beta Ray Bill, and regardless of how if you guys are reading that book or not, like it looks like Daniel Warren Johnson. He's got a sort of a particular style that is sort of it's easily recognizable.
Yeah, very action, very gritty.
Yeah, very like I always say it's very like heavy, like not DC. I'm not talking DC, but very like heavy metal. Like you can hear, like I always hear like Norwegian black metal playing when I'm listening when I'm reading these books. But really long story short, this is like if we were gonna aim this particular story. This is an accessible Wonder Woman story. All you need to know is who Wonder Woman is. That's all you need to know. She basically wakes up after centuries of putting herself in what is essentially like a cryo sleep in Themyscira, and she comes out to the world of man, and it's a nuclear wasteland, and basically she is trying to save what little humanity is left. Now that is, metaphorically and literal humanity. It's an incredible book. Again, this is a not a PG-13. I would call this probably like, what is it, NC-17? Like it is a pretty violent book. So just as a heads up, if that's something that's not really your jam, you don't really want to see Wonder Woman in that particular light. This is a pretty violent book, but if you're still on board, it's an awesome story. Really high octane, really great. Some of the ways that you see the some major players in the DC universe come into play in this, you know, particular iteration of this world and Wonder Woman is really interesting. Superman fans don't rejoice because when you get later on in the story, it is brutal. It is high octane. It's not just violence for violence sake. Like it all has its place, which I also appreciate. It's not like overtly violent, but which is also a good sort of telltale on Wonder Woman. She always resorts to violence as a a last resort, and she doesn't ever want to kill anyone, but she will if it means protecting a lot of other people, which is why she is different than Superman, and that's something that I've always loved and appreciated about her.
It reminds me of one of my favorite quotes that, and I don't think I'm gonna get it 100%, but it's like Themyscirans say, like, don't kill if you can injure, don't injure if you can subdue, don't subdue if you can like pacify, and
Right.
don't jump to violence first.
Hmm. Always. Yeah, and yeah, that's a great quote, and it's a great representation of who and what Wonder Woman is during this particular story. I'd say it's funny, in an interview with Daniel Warren Johnson that I had read, he says in this world that is, sort of heartless, the biggest enemy that Wonder Woman has to combat is her own heart and her own compassion, because when she went away, the
Mm.
world was still the world, and she's coming now into a world that is awful and terrible, and she has to play catch up, but she refuses to. So it's this dichotomy of her being the Wonder Woman of yesteryear and trying to, like Amy said, pacify if need be, but then also these people are like, I don't care, like, I'm gonna kill you if I get the chance, and if I can't kill you, I'll kill other people until you fight me. So it's a really, really interesting story. Then you also see how some Justice League heroes have changed in this world. That's a kind of a spoiler, but I'm not going to tell you who it is. But seriously, it's an incredible book. Very dark for a Wonder Woman story, but there are so many moments of hope that are shown in ways that you wouldn't think they would be shown, like a great Wonder Woman story would be. I think Michael Spicer also does a great job of really amplifying. Like, there's one sort of, in like The Sixth Sense, anytime you see red, you know something bad's about to happen. I don't know if anyone knew that, but M. Night Shyamalan said it in that movie. Anytime you saw red, something bad's about to happen. Uh, Sort of carry that tune over to this book with gold. Anytime you see her lasso or anything bright gold, it's very similar. Something bad is about to happen, or cool or badass, depending on what side of the sword you're on. So, um, again, this is a 4-issue oversized comic. It's now available pretty much everywhere digitally. I think you can read this. I actually haven't checked. Probably should have done my job, but I didn't check if it's available on DC Universe Infinite. But a lot of Black Label is starting to trickle into DC Universe Infinite, but it is definitely available on Comixology, and you can order it at your local comic book shop or wherever it is that you buy comic books from. So Wonder Woman Dead Earth by DC Comics Black Label seriously is a must read for not just Wonder Woman fans, not just fans of, Diana Prince as a princess, but like as a comic book fan, seriously, you have to read this book.
Yeah, I'm increasingly impressed with the output I see from Daniel Warren Johnson. Just
Oh
very,
yeah.
very cool storytelling, and just the quality of the artwork and the action just has to be read to, like, Paul and I
Hmm.
could talk till we're blue in the face, but we can't convey that to you if you don't actually look at the pages
Yeah,
yourself.
it's impressive.
All right. And so to round off our Action Princess segment, I've actually got Princeless, Volume 1, Save Yourself. This is a fun story, again, an all ages book. Amazing choice for a first reader. If you've got a fan in your life who wants to read some comics, loves fantasy and humor, I would absolutely wholeheartedly recommend Princeless, Book 1, Save Yourself. This was written by Jeremy Whitley with art by M. Goodwin and letters by Jung Ha Kim and Dave Dwanch. So this is published actually by Action Lab, which is a lesser known or lesser spoken about publisher. Known usually for some slightly older, I think, style comics, but this is an all ages series. It's critically
Nice.
acclaimed. Not only was it nominated for multiple Eisners, but it also was awarded at the Glyph Comic Awards for Best Female Character, Best Writer, and Story of the Year. Not that those accolades mean anything to a young reader who just wants to dive into a book, but it's cool to know that it has been recognized in a lot of places. It has 9 different collected editions, each
Oh wow.
yeah, collecting about 4 issues. I know that the first volume is the first 4 issues of the series, and it ran from 2012 to 2019, and I believe the series has wrapped now. It did get a spin-off though in 2015 called Princeless: Raven the Pirate Princess. So let me just tell you what it's about, and then we'll get into a little bit more information about it. But again, it's an all ages series, and it tells the story of Princess Adrian. She's a brave and intelligent black princess who questions traditions and stereotypes. She is constantly fighting with kind of what is expected of her as a young princess. And on her 16th birthday, despite how smart she is, she ends up being tricked into being trapped in a tower, which is unfortunately the traditional fate of every princess in her land, including her sisters. And then those princesses who are trapped are forced to wait for a handsome prince to come and rescue them. I mean, like, what are you going to do? However, she's not about that life. She escapes on her own with the help of her guardian dragon, Sparky, and then she trades in her crown and her dress for armor and a sword and decides not only is she going to save herself, she's going to go save her sisters who are all trapped in their own towers and have been for some time. So it's a lot of fun. Just a really, just a great concept. I mean, the idea of the fact that all of her family, it's the tradition of the princess to get locked in a tower and she's going to go save her sisters.
It's badass.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah, I mean, I can see why this won the award for best female character. Books in the series include Save Yourself, Get Over Yourself, The Pirate Princess, which I think is where we get our spinoff, Be Yourself, Make Yourself, parts 1 and 2, Find Yourself, Princesses, and Love Yourself. So I think I mean, that's just a lot of fun, and you can tell that there was a lot of thought that went into the story. Lots of adventures to be had throughout this whole series. I believe it's available on Comixology. You can find it at your local comic book store. I'm not sure what printing it's in currently or how widely available it is, but I do know that it is available online and in the digital format. Also, if you're looking online, a lot of stores seem to have the Spanish edition available. So if you want to read comics in Spanish, for some reason that was the first Google search result I was getting in over the English edition. But again, available in digital format, and if your local comic book store can get a hold of it, I'm sure that they've got copies stocked because it is great in the all ages readers section. But just again, it's just the Princeless series, and I'm not familiar, or I haven't had a chance to read the Raven the Pirate Princess spinoff, but I know that that was also a pretty popular spinoff when it was publishing. So I highly, highly recommend this for, I mean, no disrespect to Wonder Woman, but talking of action princesses who save themselves, we got Princeless and Princess Adrian. So I think that's a really fun one. And that's my recommendation for action princesses.
That's
So
an awesome concept.
We've
Oh my
got
God.
we got the Black Label, which is like, be careful who's reading that one in your household. And then Princeless, the whole family could enjoy. And
That's
yeah,
great.
it is a great concept.
What a and I'd like to think that Wonder Woman would very much welcome anyone from this book into her adventures.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think they were gonna do a 10th book where she ends up in Themyscira, but they just couldn't swing it. No, just
I'd pay to read that book.
just Josh. And yeah, I would love to see all of these princesses end up together on their adventures. But that does it for our princess pull list. Hopefully there
Yes.
is one, if not multiple, new characters that you can introduce yourself to and add to your reading list. Now, we did ask you guys for Holler at the Hall, which is our final segment of the show. The segment, excuse me, where we ask you guys a question, usually themed after what we're talking about that week or what we want to be discussing next. And of course, we asked you guys, who are your favorite comic book princesses? Because there were so many we couldn't even cover on this show. So, Paul,
Yeah,
you
and
want to
we
kick us
had
off?
and we had some great responses. Charles Teat says or Charles Tate, I'm sorry, says my favorite princess might be Crystal, princess of the Inhumans. I always thought controlling elements was a cool power. She has been a member of the Avengers and the Fantastic Four. Then there is her canine buddy Lockjaw. That's usually with her. Lockjaw's the best.
Animal
L-
companion. That's one of the prerequisites for, I'm
love
sure.
Lockjaw.
Absolutely. But yeah, it's interesting to remember because her sister Medusa is queen of the Inhumans, and
Right.
so there's a lot of royal lineage going on in New Adeland there. Elizabeth Estrada, I'm going to answer your question. Absolutely, yes, it does count. She asked us, does manga count? Because if so, Princess Yona is my favorite from Akatsuki no Yona or Yona of the Dawn.
Nice. Chris
Not to be
Scummin,
confused with Yona from Witchblood.
very different.
Very different.
Chrissy Scoman says Princess Aura in the Flash Gordon comics.
Then 14 Wellington gave us this picture as his answer for Shuri, Great series.
What
Princess
a
Shuri
cover.
got her own. I know,
God.
beautiful stuff. Got her own series from Marvel within the last 3 4 years. I'm realizing my sense of time of like, yeah, that book came out last year. No,
Nope.
that I everything that I think happened last year, 2 years ago, was actually 6 years ago. Thank you, Princess Leia. So, but yeah, that Shuri series, absolutely fantastic. And yes, talk about action princesses who
Oof.
get in. I mean, we could have done a whole science princess segment as well, but Princess Shuri, fantastic choice.
Excellent choice. And lastly, we had Laura and Ashley Zarillo had said, I despised Princess Azula in the show, but in the Avatar comics, I fell in love with her craziness. I mean, what's not to love? And of course, we have an excellent asset that was provided here. I can read some of it. It says, it all ends right now. I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, really? Oh, really, Mother? So I've imagined. Oh, so I've imagined all this? You haven't been trying to take me down from the moment I was born? Azula let her go. Stay back, Zuzu. I'm warning you. Is what you say true? Oh, sorry, it's getting real small for me here. Is what you say, if what you say is true, I really am your mother. Then I'm sorry I didn't love you enough. And she's kind of got she's still kind of crazed a little bit. She's still in the moment.
I can hear Gray Griffin's voice, just that
Yeah,
iconic Azula performance. But yeah, no,
incredible.
fantastic. And of course, Heavy is the head that wears the crown, as I can attest to, wearing my own crown today. But yeah, Azula is one of our rare princesses who, she's an action princess, but she's also the villain of her story. Or, I mean, every
Respect.
villain is the hero of their own story, but she's
That is
very
true.
much a villain princess. And then, of course, a lot of you gave your love to Princess Diana of Themyscira, aka Wonder Woman. We got a lot of love for Starfire and Princess Leia. So we covered them on the show.
Yes.
But thank you for those of you who chimed in with those responses. Just so many cool princesses out there.
Yeah, there are a ton of wonderful princesses in comics. And I hope that, if you guys took anything from this, you pick up one of these books, one, if not all of them, because seriously, they all need to be read. Whether
And I
it's,
promise they're not as scary as Stray Dogs.
no, they are not. No, I mean, Wonder Woman Dead Earth is kind of nuts, but not like Stray Dogs. Stray Dogs is still scarier.
And there's no disrespect to our characters like Princess Powerful and Power Princess, both from Marvel, who aren't technically royal, but well, actually, I think Power Princess might be because she's the Squadron Supreme Wonder Woman spinoff, and we're gonna see more of her in Heroes Reborn when that hits
Mhm.
stands. I believe the second week of May. So
Right.
next week we'll see you guys here for Star Wars Fan Week, covering other books that weren't Marvel's Princess Leia, but amazing Star Wars tales spinning out
Oh
of the
yeah.
House of Ideas, of course. But Paul, we need to send you on your way for that Sideshow show. We do have the rest of Princess Week going on. Again, go to side.show/Princess Week 21 for that
Mhm.
schedule. You can always find us at the Comics Hall on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. You can always email us at thecomicsHall@sideshow.com.
Mhm.
We're not accepting carrier pigeons and gestures with scrolls at this time, but appreciate you guys. You can also reach out to us in the Facebook Let Your Geek Side Show Facebook group and side.show/your LCS, the official local comics society comics hall Facebook group. I
That's
think that's
us.
all. I think that's everything.
That's everything.
Thank you guys, our loyal subjects. No, you're all princesses, and I hope you've got a crown somewhere at home. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We'll see you again next week for our special event show. As always, I'm Amy,
And I'm Paul.
and this has been the Comics Hall.